Abraham,
Okay, I'm ready now.
What's your name?
Abraham Safdie.
And what do you do for a living?
Well, right now I'm a court interpreter, an official court interpreter.
And what does that mean?
Well, that means that we have been certified by the county and by other organizations to be able to interpret correctly from Spanish to English or from English to Spanish, and we are at the service of the court.
How do you get certified to be an interpreter?
Well, you have to go through several tests, written and oral, and if you pass successfully, then you're certified.
Can anybody just go in and take the test?
Certainly.
Yes?
Sure.
Do you need any schooling?
Well, as long as you're able to do that properly, and as long as you go through the tests, you're certified.
How long have you been an interpreter?
Roughly about over 13 years.
13?
Yes, sir.
What did you do before being an interpreter?
I was in the private sector. I was a businessman.
Uh-huh. Do you enjoy being an interpreter?
Yes, at times it turns to be a bit difficult.
Let's talk about the difficult times.
Well, in the sense that you encounter situations that are dramatic, pitiful, situations in which they tore at your heart, and you have to interpret.
Tell me about one example of one of those cases that tears at your heart.
Well, for example, there was a trial in which parents were accused of abusing their son.
How so?
Well, they did lock him up in a room. They tied him up. They let him go for days without food, and eventually they were found guilty and they were sentenced to a very long term in prison.
And how did you feel during that trial?
Well, hearing from the very young man the way he was abused, it was difficult, and I had to retain my composure in front of so many people and do the job to the best of my ability.
And how are you able to interpret when a trial's going on? Do you whisper in their ear?
Well, the thing is that during a trial, if you're interpreting for the accused person, you have to keep things very low, not to disturb the rest of the audience. But when you're interpreting for a witness, on the contrary, you have to be quite loud, and you have to project your voice so everyone can hear you clearly.
Okay. And what other examples of cases have touched you in certain ways?
For example, a witness describing how they went ahead and killed someone, and how they went about it, how the deceased person reacted when it was shot, and things like that, you know. It isn't easy.
You know, I just realized you're standing there, someone's on the witness stand, let's say, they're telling you what happened in Spanish,
right?
And then you have to tell the jury, correct?
In English.
In English. So you're hearing this for the first time typically, right?
Yes, unless by sheer coincidence, maybe I may have done an interview previously of the same subject. Maybe I may have some inkling to what happened. But otherwise, most of the time, I don't know anything.
Are you aware that you can somehow impact the trial? Because when they're telling you something, your face could react.
Well, it happens that I have been told I have a rubber face.
A what?
A rubber face.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that...
refer to the texture?
No. It means that I don't have a poker face. What you see is what you get. And but I do my best. I try to hold myself. And you have to be impartial. You can't... although we have been instructed and told that in a way, when a witness is declaring, you have to actually convey his feelings and his tone of voice. In other words, if he says something forcefully, you're supposed to carry it forcefully too.
Have there been times where you find it difficult when you're hearing a witness say something so horrific for you to remain kind of poker-faced or non-emotional?
I don't know. I may roll my eyes. I don't know what I may do. But I never have any complaints. Everyone, well, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but everyone says that I do my job properly.
What about some other challenges? I know that certain words from certain countries can mean different things.
Well, yes. For example, there was a case, and I don't want to be too lengthy, but there was a case in which a witness was declaring, giving a testimony to how an uncle and his nephew killed someone.
Right.
And and how they conspired and how they went about making plans of killing this person. So he used the slang word in Spanish, which actually mostly is used in Cuba. And the word is jamar. Now, jamar is used very loosely. It could be interpreted as doing away, it could be interpreted as eating, could be interpreted as many different ways. So he said, well, what happened? He said, well, in that meeting, they decided that they had to jamar the Colombian. So I turned to the judge, and I said, well, he's using a slang. He says, well, do your best. I said, well, I said to myself, if I say that they said that we're going to kill him, I am going actually making a very, very firm statement. So I said, I have to give myself some room. So I said, well, they decided to do away with the Colombians.
So it could have been doing away with?
Well, then let the jury interpret it the way they want. I wasn't about to say they decided to kill the Colombian.
It seems then that you have a lot of power in how you interpret what those words mean.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the judge, most of the judges at the beginning of a trial, they instruct the jury and they tell them, well, even though you may speak some Spanish, because many members of the jury are Spanish, says, well, even though you may speak Spanish, you may disagree perhaps with the interpretation of the interpreter, we must go by the interpreter's version. And that gives us power. Well, we don't abuse it.
Does he have edit, like if the first words are profanities?
Oh, good question. I mean, there are times where witnesses use profanity.
You've got to come with the right word as you know it. And at the beginning, some of the interpreters which are new to the trade, especially women, they find it very difficult to come out in court and say the four-letter words. But we have been instructed, we have to go ahead and interpret word by word what they're saying.
Do you have any difficulty with that?
Myself? No, sir.
What other challenges do you have as an interpreter?
Well, in which sense? Challenges, especially if it is a very high-profile case and some TV cameras are aimed at you and the courtroom is packed with people, it is a challenge to, you're on the spot. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you something. If you hesitate for just a few seconds with one word, all of a sudden 200 pairs of eyes are focused on you. So, that could be a challenge.
So the cameras can sometimes make you a little bit more nervous.
Well, the thing is that, it isn't the same way as if you're interpreting when you go to a grocery store and ask for something.
Have you ever been challenged before? Has anyone ever said, well, wait a second, that's not what that word means?
Not that I recall.
Do you hear of that happening, though?
Well, for example, at that particular case in which the witness said jamar, the defense attorney did object. He said, sure, of course. He said, well, doesn't jamar means this and means that? I said, well, yes, it could mean this and it could mean that. But the way I'm interpreting is the way I said it.
You then arguably become a witness in the case because you're then interpreting what that person's saying.
Yeah, well, yes. We have been called, and not myself, and many other interpreters, we have been called to court as a witness for different reasons.
Do you have every language available to defendants here?
Yes. We actually searched the four corners of the world to get the interpreter, if it is so desired, in whatever language. And sometimes could be very difficult. Could be a Mayan dialect in the deep jungles of Guatemala, and you have to come up with some interpreter. But we try our best.
Is there a difference between someone who, let's say, is an interpreter born and raised in Cuba, and they're interpreting from someone, like you say, in the jungles of Guatemala? Is there a difference there?
Well, yeah. Well, if it happens to be a Guatemalan dialect, it's going to be a mighty hard thing to accomplish by a Cuban-born or Mexican-born. So we go through consulates and we go to different places. Our supervisors, Ana Cabezon and Sergio Bol, they do their very best to get the interpreter for the right occasion. But here in court, what they interpret is, for example, the most difficult things could be Chinese or Mandarin or Arabic, but we try our best.
How about Yiddish? Any Yiddish?
No, but sometimes Hebrew, yes.
Good to see you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
Do well.
You put me on the spot.
Hang on one second.